go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie, and today I have all new Shore Living DIYs, the new line at the Dollar Tree. I tried to use a lot of their newer items, and I made 6 things. I love them, and I can't wait to show you how I put them all together. So let's go. Okay, the first DIY, we're going to use one of these raw wood seahorses from the Dollar Tree and 2 of these wall shelves from the Dollar Tree. These are like the thicker, chunkier ones that are really skinny. You could use any kind of rectangular sign. I liked this one because I like that wood finish on there, and I like the fact that it already has holes where the rope hangs the little shelves, and I have a plan to use those. I don't want to use like the existing rope that's on there though. It's a little too thick. I need to be able to get a couple through the holes, and so I'm just going to go ahead, cut all of that rope off, and just keep the 2 signs that we're going to put together. And I'm going to be using the Dollar Tree twine to do this. I had an idea that it would be really cool to do like a fishing net, and I didn't really have anything that would work, so I thought we could try to make our own, right? So this is the twine from the Dollar Tree that I'm using. It is not the super thin one, but it's pretty small. The first step is just a bead of hot glue all along one of the shelves to glue the 2 together. They're nice and thick. They glue together really well. You don't really have to reinforce it at all. And then I want to start stringing this Dollar Tree twine through so we can start building a fishing net. I've done like kind of smaller scale fishing nets. I've never really done anything quite this big, but I did go online to kind of figure out how to make one, so that's fun. So I'm just going to feed it through all of the holes here on top just because they're there. You don't necessarily have to go through those middle ones. And then I cut it long enough that I can just tie it here at the top, and then we're also going to have a hanger. So that works. Now we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have went through the middle holes because on the bottom, I do have to remove those to do the final step in this DIY and kind of replace it. But I do need it there temporarily, so I guess it's going to work. So we have our ropes at the top and the bottom. And then we also need ropes to go along like each side of our sign. And it does make it easier if you put a little bit of hot glue and shape the end if you're going to be feeding it through the holes, especially when there's already a twine through that hole. So I fed it through that top, and I just go all the way behind it because I've already got like twine going through. That way I can do both sides. So I go through the bottom on that side and go through the bottom on this side. Again, the hot glue is a great trick. I don't know, one of you guys told me about that. And then I'm just going to tie it off on the back like we did before. So we have twine all the way around, and now we can start with the fishing net. So I just kind of pinch a piece in half, and I'm just kind of estimating how long I'm going to need it to be because I know there's going to be lots of knots. I probably should have went a little longer because it was close here at the end. But basically, I just fold it in half like that, loop it around the very top, and pull it tight like that. So we have 2 of the twine pieces hanging off there, and I kind of try to center it a little bit because we're also going to be going in with another one here and looping that through as well. And so now we have like 4 rows of twine. I try to tape it down a little bit just to kind of make it easier because there's going to be like pulling and tying to try to get this. But basically you take 1 from each side, and then you're going to do, I think it's called an overhand knot, where you just grab both of them and tie it in a knot together and pull it tight. And that is a way that they make the fishing nets. Now on the sides, it's a little bit different because you've only got 1 piece going on the side. So what I did is I just tied that on there, just a simple knot. about the same. I'm trying to make a row. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side as well. And we have like our first row of like triangles. Now I take this one, and I'm going to do an I think it was called an overhand knot. I need to look that up again. And then I take the other two and do the same. And so now see, we have like the two triangles there. And now we can take the two middle ones again and tie off another row, trying to keep my, little diamonds about the same shape. And then I take my side piece and tie it on the side again. And then we're gonna go on the other side and complete another row. So you can probably get the feel for it. My painter's tape was not like doing the best holding it down. I tried to tape it down with something a little stronger. So we're gonna do the two on the left. And I don't know if my string was not quite tight enough, because I did find it kind of going in on the sides a little bit more than I'd like, but I'll show you how I fix that. I'm gonna do the middle one, and then we're gonna tie off both sides again to complete another row. And we're gonna keep doing that until we get all the way to the bottom. As you can see, I started getting a little short on a twine. I didn't know if I was going to have enough, but I did in the end. And so I'm just gonna kind of try to space it out until I can get to the bottom, and I just tie that off on the bottom, kind of in that same diamond shape. Now, since it did seem like it was kind of warped, I'm gonna use a little bit of hot glue to stretch that back out and give me that full fishing net pattern that we're looking for. But isn't that cool? I thought that would be a cool way to try to display the little seahorse for this sign. So I just kind of space that out, glue it down on both sides, and I think that the little seahorse will fit inside the net just fine. I want to make it look like the little seahorse is like trapped inside the fishing net, if you know what I mean. So kind of like peeking out a little bit. That's when I realized that I wasn't going to be able to slide it in, because I did use those center holes there at the bottom, but that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. And then I can replace it after I am done putting it through there. So looks like it's gonna fit in there, and so now we just need to paint it. I kind of want it just to be like a plain beachy coastal blue seahorse, and so I'm gonna be working on the back of it where it doesn't have like the wood burning on it. That way I don't have to cover any of that up. So all you gotta do is remove the tag and the hanger. I'm mixing a couple colors together, Caribbean blue and ivory, to give me this really soft blue beachy color. I love that color. And you know, the raw wood from Dollar Tree is so easy to paint. So we're just gonna go all over with the blue. One coat is definitely plenty. And then I do want to distress it a little bit. So after I dry it, I'm gonna go in with a chunky brush and some ivory and just kind of distress, like working in one direction to give it that coastal farmhouse vibe. And if you get a little bit too much on there, you can follow that up with a baby wipe. You can go back in with like your original color. Just kind of distress it to your liking. I don't want to do a lot of details on this because it's going to be kind of behind the detail that we already made, which was the fishing net. So I think just a little bit of color is really all that it needs. Okay, I think it's ready to go. We can slide this inside the fishing net now. So I go in from the bottom and just kind of work it all the way up until the little seahorse is peeking out from behind. So it fits in there just perfectly on the size shelf. It really worked out well. But I do have to replace the bottom twine to hold it in place. So I just come in from one corner, tie that back off where I had it kind of tied before. It's okay if there's more than one knot there. And then tie it off on the back. My camera died there for a second. And then kind of like pull it down around the tail to secure that in place. And then the top of the seahorse is kind of like peeking out from the top as well. But isn't that cool? I thought that was really fun. This is definitely an original idea. I've never seen this anywhere. And I take some of the Dollar Tree twine, the thinner one, and I'm just gonna do a very simple little finger bow just to cover up that little hole in the top. And I really don't want any other details with this. I think this is perfect as is. Here's our little seahorse trapped in a fishing net. Very coastal, very my vibe. And this is how it looks hanging in my home. I love this. I think this is something that I can display year-round in my coastal house. Or if you just do coastal for summer, it would be really cute for that as well. Okay, next DIY. These are new this year. These are like little hanging signs. They have 3, and I thought we could make something really cool with them. So I picked up 2 of them. And oh guys, you know, it's Easter today, the day that I am recording this. So you guys should be getting this at your stores if you haven't got it yet, because you know, some of those darn Dollar Trees still haven't put out the Shore Living items yet. And some of my Dollar Trees are already almost sold out. So it's completely different. Basically, I'm gonna need 5 of these out of the 6. And I want to make a planter box with these, kind of like doing a different one on each side. And then I'll also need one for the bottom. So those are the 5 that I chose, and then we can start putting these together. Like that is what I'm kind of talking about, like making a box of them and then having one for the bottom. So to put it together, I'm going to use some of the little Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue one up near the top of one, or actually that's the bottom, kind of flush with the bottom, and then one near the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and hot glue blocks on the other side in the same place. That's going to give me something to glue to, because these little signs are so thin, so that I can put it together. So I'm going to do starfish on one side, and I'll put the seahorses on opposite sides since I only have 3 different designs instead of 4. And so this one is going to be the other side. I am just going to do the same thing, gluing one at the very bottom and one at near the top. Not all the way, I don't want you to be able to see it when we go to put it together. So that is the coral piece. Now I thought it would be best to distress them now before I put it together. And so I'm just using a chunky brush and some ivory acrylic, just distressing in one direction. It's gonna take those like printed, cheaper looking signs and make them look more like hand painted, more rustic. But I love the little white shapes on there. I love the colors of these signs. I think they're perfect. I think a little distress is all they need. So this is how we're gonna put it together. We're gonna start with a little hot glue on each side of our little Jenga block and square this up. Now make sure you get this on there good and let it dry, because you're gonna want that joint to be as strong as you can get. So we have one side on. We're gonna go ahead and do the other side, which was also the seahorse, and put that on there and try to get that as square and as tight as we can, kind of holding that in place until it dries. A little bit of patience is required on the glue drying there. You could use wood glue, but it's gonna take a lot longer, I think, to dry. Now here is the other side. I'm gonna do just one side at a time because I'm trying to act quickly while my hot glue is still hot, and you can work with it, but then holding it until it sets up for sure. So exercise a little bit of patience, otherwise your little floral box is gonna be kind of not sturdy. So then I just kind of pull it up a little bit, put hot glue on the other 2 little Dollar Tree Jenga blocks, and then glue the 4th side on. And we have a little box. Now the reason I did a 5th sign is because it would be the perfect size for the bottom. But I'm gonna kind of do the starfish up like that, just so I have a flat finished bottom on my piece, and you won't ever know that that's got a starfish on it anyway. I put hot glue on all 4 of my pieces and a little along the edges, and I just secure that in place. And now we have a little floral box, and I'm so excited to decorate this with new items that I found at the Dollar Tree and New Shore Living Greenery. So I'm going to take some of the Dollar Tree green foam, the little squares, we're going to pile those in there to kind of give me something to put all of the picks and the different greenery in. Now it is a rather large box, and so I still have a lot of area to fill up. So we're going to go in with like pretty much a whole bag of the Spanish moss from the Dollar Tree. I think this kind of looks like seaweed. It's going to give you that coastal vibe, and it's going to work as a great filler in our little floral box. So that's pretty much how one box looks. Now we can start filling this up. Now check out this new greenery that I found at the Dollar Tree. They have lamb's ear. I've only seen this at one of my stores, but I was so excited. It's so high end. It looks just like the lamb's ear that you would buy at more expensive stores. And it's kind of got 2 like pieces on there. I'm gonna cut it down into 2, make 2 picks out of each one. And I just love it. I think the kind of fuzzy lamb's ear is going to kind of go with my coastal vibe and my colors. And I love the softness of it. I'm just using my little floral scissors from the Dollar Tree to cut those down. And I want it to be as full as possible. So I am using 3 bunches of the lamb's ear. And then I'm going to use some of this glitter coral. I think this was from 4th of July. I find this often at Dollar Tree though. But I was just at one of my Dollar Trees. They already had graduation set and they already had 4th of July set. So I went ahead and bought graduation because my son is graduating from high school this year. Isn't that exciting? And then I already bought some 4th of July stuff too. I couldn't believe they had it out. It was the same store that put Shore Living out first. I congratulated them on being on their game. But we're going to scatter the little glitter coral kind of all over, filling that out. I think that gives you that nice coral touch. If you have some of those little trees, ornaments that look like coral from Christmas, you could use that as well. But I kind of wanted something a little taller, and this definitely fit the bill. So just cutting those down in individual sprigs and kind of putting those all over. Now these are the new Shore Living items that we're going to use. I'm going to use 2 of the little seahorse Shore Living coastal picks. Oh my gosh, I am in love with these. They are beautiful. They have them with green seahorses and they have them with ivory. If you want to see what I found, I do have a Shore Living shopping haul out that I put out last week. And you can see everything that I found, but aren't they cute? So I'm going to use 2, one kind of on each side, kind of with my seahorses facing each other, different heights, different depths, just to break it up a little bit. And I love it. I'm going to finish it off with just a little bit more Spanish moss, just because all of that, putting the greenery in there, kind of caved everything down a little bit. And I do want it to look full. I thought this was so easy to put together, and I love it. It looks great for a coastal decoration using these new Shore Living signs. Coral, seahorse, starfish, and we have the wonderful little seahorse picks. They are so cute. And how about that Dollar Tree lamb's ear? Very impressed with that, and I had so much fun putting this DIY together. Okay, next DIY. This one's going to be pretty easy. Check out this new sign that I got at the Shore Living line. It says, "Come with me to the sea." I love it because there's no glitter on it. Thank you, Dollar Tree. And the little seahorse is burlap. He's adorable. I love the colors. I love everything about it. The only thing I don't love about it is that it's a cheap, thin Dollar Tree sign. So we're going to make ours way better. I'm going to use 2 of the longwood signs. I'm going to use bunny because I have it left over from Easter, but they also have the seahorse ones in like this that you could use as well. We're going to need 2 of those. We're basically going to make a larger wood sign to go behind their sign, where we can layer them together and make a thicker, more substantial sign. And it's also going to kind of look like framed out and stuff like that. So if I put the 2 together like this, the 2 bunny signs, and then layer a little coastal shore living beach sign on top, I'm going to kind of estimate how big I need this to be, and then I am just going to take these little long signs to my saw and cut them down to size. You know, those signs are pretty thin. If you didn't have a saw, you could probably cut that with a razor blade, a couple of cuts through there, I would think. But I cut mine with my saw, just sanding down the edges a little bit. I kind of like the rustic feel of the cut. I decided to do one kind of raw cut on each side to kind of break it up. Now, these are not thick enough to glue together. These are very thin signs. And so to put the 2 signs together and to make it sturdy, we're just going to use some Dollar Tree popsicle sticks to make little braces that go along the back. They're nice and thin. You'll never really know they're there, but they're definitely going to serve their purpose. Now, they are so thin that you can't like staple or anything like that, so definitely going to have to use hot glue to put this together. So I like to do as many braces as I can when I do a project like this. We're going to do 5. Just because, you know, those thin signs from the Dollar Tree, they can warp or be different, you know, be going different directions. This is going to help keep everything flat and square. And, you know, combining it with the other Dollar Tree sign is also going to help with that. So there's our braces. Now we have our larger wood sign. Super easy. And then, doesn't that look cute? It like frames it out. I mean, because I love the existing sign. I just wanted to try to find a way to make it better. So the first thing we're going to do is hot glue it down, trying to use as much hot glue as I can here to make sure that it is secure and flat and all the edges are pretty close to the wood behind it. I don't want like any gaps or anything like that. Oh, I'm so happy with these new signs. You know, I've spent way too much at Dollar Tree on the shore living line. I need to stay out, but oh my gosh, I love it. You guys know. So now I'm going to take a piece of twine, tie a knot on each end, and I can use a staple gun now because what I'm going to do, I already have the 2 signs together. You could use hot glue for this, but I'm just going to use my staple gun and staple a little hanger kind of on the back, just something, it's going to be like a little hidden hanger. And this is a pretty lightweight sign, so it doesn't need a whole lot to hold it up. You could always do that step with hot glue if you needed to. Now to frame it out more, we're going to use some Dollar Tree nautical rope. We're going to use this white one. I thought we could do a fun like knot border frame on this one to frame it out. That's also going to make it thicker, more substantial, and just add like more texture and depth. I just tie a knot in the end of my rope and we're going to hot glue that into one corner. Now you do kind of have to pay attention to what direction you're tying your knots. This one has like the rope kind of coming out on the top, and we're going to do that kind of along the sides. Trying to make sure that I have that one secure. Hot gluing that down and then tying a knot here on the other side. So I'm trying to go like the opposite direction here so that the rope is coming out on top on the side, but coming out like below on the top, if you know what I mean. And so I tie it off, tighten it right where it'll be at the corner, and then just attach that knot with hot glue as well. And if you tie it and it looks like it is opposite or wrong, before you tighten it, just undo it and you can redo it again. So in this one, I want the top on bottom and the side on top to kind of make it symmetrical with the other side. And then I glue that knot down and come down and kind of tie the opposite knot here on the other side. You kind of have to think about which way you're tying it. And then that is exactly how I want it. Up on the side, down on the bottom. And now I just need to glue that down, then cut the remaining rope long enough to kind of go all the way over to the other knot, kind of make it look like that is part of that knot, if you know what I mean, and just hot glue that down. Now the ropes on the side kind of stick out a tiny bit because they came out like on top. And so I'm going to hot glue those down to make sure there's like no gapping or anything like that when this is hanging on my wall. Now, the only thing I have left is I don't really like the holes in the original sign. And so I thought it would be fun to take some of these little tiny starfish. I get these on Amazon. They're always listed in my Amazon shop below. Look, I thought that would be the perfect little touch. Pick out like a little starfish to go over each hole. And it's going to add a tiny decoration and it's going to cover up those annoying holes. So just a little dot of hot glue and a little delicate tiny starfish. You can see those kind of multiple colors and I kind of sort mine by size, but they all come together like that. Sometimes they all come really tiny like this, but sometimes you can get those larger ones in there. It's kind of varied. It's kind of, you never really know exactly what you're going to get. And we're done with our come with me to the sea sign with our little burlap seahorse and the rope frame. I love how this came together. I think this would look great in my home year round. I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put this one actually. I have coastal in every room of my house, of course. But that's definitely going to have to find a home. Hey guys, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about my private Facebook group. I have it linked below. We would love to have you over on Facebook. I also have a Facebook page if you'd like content over there. And I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at Crafty Beach on YouTube. Okay, next DIY. Now this one is going to be a piece of art. I'm going to use one of their new seashell signs with the starfish and one of their mermaid signs that they brought back again this year with the shore living line at Dollar Tree. Now, I wanted to start with the shell sign first. Pretty sure these are new. I didn't have any of these last year. So the first step is I need to get rid of the starfish. I don't necessarily want to break it though, so I'm just using my heat gun and a spatula and pulling that right off. Now, I want to do something really cool on this. It's already got the lines on there for reference. And so I thought I would use some of this thinner brown nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and basically do each one of the banding there in the shell and border it out. And then we can fill this up. I kind of wanted to do like a beaded or a shelled shell. So let me show you how I kind of got that effect using supplies from the Dollar Tree. So basically, I'm just going to have to cut the rope down to size to fill these in. I kind of went all the way to the end. I do go back and frame it out, so maybe you might want to cut these a little bit shorter than you need. And we're just going to attach it with hot glue. And what the rope is going to do, it's going to kind of give me, you know, that fun rope detail, but it's also going to give me walls where I can go back and fill this in. My inspiration for this was like a larger shell than this, like filled up with little seashells all over, which would be so cute. I have tiny seashells, but didn't have anything tiny enough to fill this in. So I'll show you what I'm going to use. I'm trying to use everything from the Dollar Tree, of course. And so to make it easier, and so I kind of use like the little blue pebbles that I've DIY'd with a lot. They always give me that nice beachy feel, and it's really going to give a lot of color to this project as well. Now I need to frame it out. So that's why I was talking about you might want to cut it a little shorter, because then I was kind of having to go almost off of the shell a little bit with my frame, but I'm trying to glue it to the very corners of the frame, just starting there on the bottom. And then we're just going to glue this all the way around in the shape of the shell. Now the top, it has like a scalloped shape. I found it a little hard to get that shape, maybe because my rope was a little too long, but I'm trying my best to glue that scallop shape all the way around. And I'm trying to like make it where you can't really see any of the wood that is there. Just going all the way around, cutting it down to size and hot gluing that down. So we have our shell. This is going to be, I wanted it to look like a mermaid coming out or sitting in a shell, something that I can display on my shelf with my beach decor. So I kind of burn off my little hot glue strings, and then I'm going in with my lighter just to burn off the fuzzies of the rope. This one was not too bad, but I always like to do that. I find that it does clean it up a little bit. And sometimes you have like the random pieces of rope kind of sticking out. Okay, next step, we're going to use tacky glue that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I like to use tacky glue because it's nice, thick, and strong, especially when I am doing like a beaded or pebble project like this. And what we're going to do is fill up each one of these little shell segments with the tacky glue. I'm just using a tiny paintbrush just to kind of spread it around. And then I want to do a thick coat though, because I want there to be plenty of glue for my pebbles. And I love DIYing with these pebbles. They're so fun. From the Dollar Tree, I already even had an open bag because I like to DIY with these. You might want to put something down. I'm just using one of the Dollar Tree cutting boards just to kind of cut my extra pebbles and fill up our first section. It's kind of a smaller section. It's kind of got some odd angles, just making sure that I have a good layer down. And then I go over with the Dollar Tree spray adhesive to glue from the top. And we're just going to keep doing that on every section, going in with a thick layer of tacky glue, then a layer of blue pebbles, and then spraying it with the spray adhesive. I'm going to be getting it with the spray adhesive a lot. I find that that helps, and really it's the only way you can glue it once you have them on there. And that's going to glue is going to dry clear, so it doesn't matter if you get any of it on the rope. You won't be able to see it in the long run. So we've got about half of that up, and see how it kind of gives you that like beaded kind of a fun little pebble feel. It kind of just has so much detail, and this is just going to make a beautiful background for our mermaid that we're going to DIY as well. Now, I like to let the shell dry overnight. I do use my heat gun on it sometimes to dry it, but I find that it really needs to sit overnight. And so this was like my final project of the day so that I could let that sit overnight before I go ahead and put the whole thing together, because you're going to want that to dry. And you know what? After I let it sit overnight, like it was down. Like I barely lost any pebbles at all. Going over the whole thing with more spray adhesive now that we've got it all filled up with blue pebbles. And I start drying it a little bit so I can do another coat of spray adhesive, because you really can't have too much glue on there. So that is our little beaded shell, and I want the little mermaid to be kind of sitting like that, kind of peeking out, looking over to the side from the shell. I think the combination is going to go really well together. This is the wooden mermaid that's kind of upright. They have two. They have one that's like swimming horizontally, and then this one is the upright one. And I love these. They've had these the last couple of years, and I always love DIYing with them. She has a little starfish as well, And I do like that, but it's going to get in the way for what we're going to do. So I just remove that with a little heat and my spatula. Now, my plan was to cover it with this new burlap they have at the Shore Living line. They have rolls of burlap at Dollar Tree now, guys. They have these in prints. They even have a mermaid print. They also have it in white. I almost did it in white, but then I decided I really wanted the brown burlap. So that is what we're going to do. So it's just a piece of burlap all folded up, and we are going to use that to cover our mermaid. So I needed something to kind of draw on the burlap. I find that like my marking pen and stuff like that does not work. So I have to use something a little bit more serious. So I am using a Sharpie. Be careful though, because you're going to want to cut all of the color off. Otherwise, you're going to be able to see it once you get it cut out. But if you try to cut all of the color off, you can do a pretty good job. Now, my original plan for this was just to do the mermaid tail and do something different on the top. But then I was like, I will cover the entire burlap, the entire mermaid with burlap. So that was my plan at this moment. So just going to go in, try to cut off all of the color. Again, this is like real burlap, so you got to be careful cutting it because it does fray, it can fall apart, and that is a problem that I did have with the upper part of the burlap once I get it all cut down. But at this point, I'm still going, cutting this thing out, cutting the tail, cutting around her arms. I think it was just the details of her arms being skinny, the hands in different areas just made it a little bit too unstable. And so I end up only doing the tail. So if you're going to recreate this, you only have to do the tail, the easy part, right? So as you can see, her hand is falling off already. I thought at this point that I could kind of salvage it, but it ends up not being the case. But let's go ahead and get started attaching the burlap to our little wood mermaid. I don't really care that it has the wood burning on there of the scales and stuff like that, because if you could see through, that would be cool. But actually, I don't think you really can. I'm going to go over the mermaid tail with Mod Podge to start covering this. A rather thick layer since this is fabric, and just kind of starting at the tail. It was trying to fall off as well. That skinny burlap cutting is really not good. So I'm going to go over it with a more Mod Podge on the top, making sure that I have it secure and that it is staying down. Trying to fix the little area there in the tail where it was kind of wanting to fall off. And then I tried to attach the top. I get it kind of far on it. I kind of think that I can pull it off. And then, I think it was just kind of too like falling apart over there on the hand. It was just annoying me. As you can see, like the burlap was fraying, kind of just like a hot mess. And I'm like, I'm going to have to cut a new piece for the hand. So I do go ahead and glue it on there. And then I decide that, no, it's just not going to work. Let's just go ahead and do the mermaid tail. But, I always like to show you when things don't work as well and kind of why. Our arms were just too skinny, but that's okay. We'll do something different with the top. So I'm just going to wipe off the Mod Podge, cut off that burlap fabric, but leave the little burlap tail. That's still super cute. I used a lot of Mod Podge on that, so I did have to go in and give it a pretty good dry. Now for the top of the mermaid, I decided to mix together some Caribbean blue and ivory to give me that really light beachy blue color that we used also on that seahorse DIY, and just kind of paint her body, face, and hair with that. I do have a plan for her hair, which turned out so cool. I'm always trying to find cool ways to do mermaid hair, and I love this way that I used today. It's the first time I've tried this. So just kind of going all over, super easy to paint. And I do want it to have that coastal farmhouse vibe. So I do go back in with ivory, a chunky brush, and like slightly distressed, kind of dry brush it, just kind of in one direction to give that coastal feel. And really the only part of that you're going to be able to see is her face and her body. I didn't want her to have a lot of details, like I didn't want her to have a face or a shell brawl or anything like that, because there was so much detail on the shell that she's going to be on. I'm just going to trim up the tail a little to make her look a little bit better. And then this is my idea for hair. I'm going to use that thinner brown rope from the Dollar Tree and make mermaid hair. Now this unwinds into 4 strands instead of 3 like the white, but you have to be careful because like the strands do want to like, you know, kind of come apart like immediately. But look, you can get this cool like curly wavy pattern by unwinding it. So I cut off a length that looks like it would be long enough, and we can start hot gluing this to our mermaid. I'm just going to go kind of side by side trying to fill this in like flowing mermaid hair. I decided to switch to my little detail hot glue gun because my cordless one puts out a ton of hot glue and really not necessary for this hair. I do kind of glue it all the way around so it kind of stays in place. And then I start gluing a little bit further back so that her face is going to be exposed and not covered with our hair. And then I just cut off one more piece at a time and glue like a little fourth of the rope on at a time. But we need to cover up like, you know, basically all of the hair that was already on there. And so I keep working with that until I get all the way down here to the bottom. Now, I wasn't a big fan of her hairstyle at that point, so I decided to do a few more kind of flowing out to the side just to give a little bit more depth to it. Just more curls. Kind of coming out from her hairline there. And I think it turned out so cute. I've also used like the grass skirts from the Dollar Tree on another mermaid DIY. That one turned out cute as well. This totally gives you a different feel. I love the curls. I think it looks really cool, especially combined with the brown burlap. So it was a good thing that the burlap didn't work out because I kind of like her better this way. Now, I was trying to decide if I wanted to give her original starfish or the bigger one that was on the shell. And I decided, why not? Let's give her the large one. Just going to leave it white, and we're going to hot glue that into our little mermaid hand. And kind of trim her hair up a little bit too, just so it doesn't look quite so wild. But I love it. It totally gives me that flowing mermaid hair, don't care. And I'm going to go ahead and attach that to our little shell. I haven't let it sit overnight yet, but I think I can glue this down because I can glue it to the rope parts. But I'm not going to make this stand until tomorrow after like it lays flat for like at least an overnight. So planning how I'm going to sit her on there, and then I'm just going to go in with hot glue along her tail part. And position her on the shell the way I want, mainly kind of gluing to the rope, but also a little bit on the pebbles. And I love how she turned out. I love like the simplicity of the mermaid, but all that detail also in the seashell. I think it really looks good together. So this is next day, and look, everything stayed down, everything is secure. So we're just going to make a very simple stand. I'm going to use one of these giant Jenga blocks from Five Below. Getting kind of low on those. I hope they have those again this year. I need to go check that out. And I'm going to hot glue that to the back. I use these things for everything. They're just a great size wood, and they're always a good deal. and not quite to the bottom, so it slightly sits back a tiny bit. And there's our little mermaid and a seashell. I think she's beautiful, and I can't wait to display her with my coastal decor in my living room, where I try to keep it coastal year-round, except for maybe Christmas. And this is how she looks in my home. See all the different textures and stuff? So pretty. Okay, our next DIY, I'm going to use one of these anchors from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree and some decorative nautical rope, the brown rope from the Dollar Tree as well. This is kind of like the thinner one, if you will. Some of you guys have been asking if these smell like chemical. I was sniffing mine right here to see if mine smelled, and maybe a slight smell, but nothing noticeable. I don't know why that would be happening. Strange. I don't know. It's something maybe with the manufacturing process or storage. I don't know. I'm going to start right here in the middle of my anchor and go all the way down the middle with the rope. This is the larger anchor, the one that they seem to have every year. They also have a new one this year that has a starfish on it that is smaller. But I chose the larger one because I kind of wanted to make a larger rope anchor. Now, using that same piece, I'm hot gluing it around the edge of my anchor, kind of framing it out. But I want to kind of use one piece of rope as far as I can with this. There are going to be some areas that I'll have to fill in where I will have to cut individual pieces. But as long as I'm going, I'm going to try to use one piece. I decided to kind of skip the side parts there. I thought those would be easier to come back and do separately. Just keep going with that same piece of rope around the ring at the top, going down the side, and then we're going to go around this side of the anchor as well. Just kind of doing one section at a time. So my hot glue does not dry out. And trying to keep that anchor shape for this little rope DIY. So we go all the way back down to the starting point, going to make a sharp turn and come back up to the top. Now we kind of hit the ring part, so I do decide to cut it there. And then we can start on the other side, kind of doing the same thing, coming down to the bottom. And then sharp turn, come right back up and fill that in. That looks great. I can continue that around the ring. Now, I got to that point and I kind of ran out of room because I didn't have it spaced great over there, but I show you how I'll fix that. I'm going to go in and finish off the ring though while we're up there with another piece of rope, gluing that down tight. I've never made a rope project like this, but I love how it turned out. It was super fun. So there wasn't quite enough room to get my rope in there, but I figured that if I used my heat gun, I could loosen my hot glue enough where I could kind of push that over a little bit, and that worked. And then I'm gonna hot glue that down, that last piece. And that was one piece of rope. That was how far it went. And so we're gonna go ahead and open another package here. This was a really easy DIY to make, and I just love how it turned out. It's so coastal. It would also go with like a nautical feel. So this one, kind of tricky. I kind of start in the middle, go up to the middle, turn corners, trying to fill in any space, and then gonna come around the side and kind of go into the little point shape, gluing it right next to the first row of rope that we did. And then I just decided to keep going kind of in a circular fashion just to kind of fill up the entire tip. Now I thought I might as well do the other side in the reverse pattern while I could still see exactly what I did, so I'll know how to do the same thing. Kind of going down the middle to the middle, starting in the middle, going to the middle of the anchor, and then following that to the tip of the anchor and kind of going in a circular pattern until I fill that completely in. Now we still have like lots to fill in there, so we're just gonna have to be kind of creative. I start here where we kind of left off and go around to the bottom and make a sharp turn, trying to kind of fill in that like triangular shape and come back down. Trimming it there, I didn't really think I could make it go any further than that. And then just cutting down some little pieces to fill up the hole. Now, I find that you gotta kind of hold it when you're cutting those small pieces like that, otherwise they'll kind of fall apart. So I'm gonna repeat the same thing here on the other side, same steps. I didn't have this one spaced quite as evenly though, so I'm just gonna kind of fill up the two little spaces with the little rope pieces, and it looks pretty good. Now we just have the little side parts here. We're gonna start in the middle and go around this little circular pattern here on the side. And then I thought we should try to use one piece on this as well, just kind of working in a circular pattern and gluing that down, cutting it down to size, filling that in. And isn't this cool? I love a rope anchor. I think that's a really fun idea. We're gonna go in on the other side and do the same thing. And it's already got like the ring on the top of the anchor, so it's gonna be really easy to attach a hanger for this. It's kind of a medium-sized project. This would be cute on a door or hanging on a wall. Actually, you know, you could probably even display it on a shelf too. You could kind of lean it up against something. Like that would be really cool on a cabinet as well. So once I get it all glued on there, I'm just gonna go in with my heat gun, try to clean up any of the hot glue strings that we might have. And it also helps the hot glue disappear if any of it's really visible. I'm also gonna go in, since it's a rope project, and burn off all my fuzzies all the way around. Now, I thought it was really cute as is. I do want to decorate it a little bit though. I was kind of thinking, you know, it probably needs like a rope decor, but it's already covered in rope. So I'll show you what I do for that. For the hanger, I'm gonna hang mine. So I use just a little bit of twine here and just knot that around the ring. Super easy. And then I thought we'd switch it up and go with the white nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. You guys know I always have a stash of both colors because I love crafting with this. Great for coastal decor. And you know how anchors have like the rope tied and like usually kind of wrapped around it when you have like an anchor for display? I thought we could do that with this white rope. So I'm just gonna I want like kind of the unwound edge of that to show through. So I kind of string that through the ring at top and then just start wrapping it around the middle of the anchor. And then I kind of want to wrap it around the bottom parts of the anchor as well. It felt a little awkward at this stage trying to figure out exactly how I wanted it. So I try a couple times just to try to get it like exactly kind of the vibe. I just kind of want it to look like it's draped around it. And that kind of like anchor feel. So I'm going to cut that down to size, kind of hot glue this to the bottom of the anchor so it stays in place. And then I do kind of have to secure it to the back with some more hot glue just to make sure that it kind of keeps the shape that I wanted. And then I also glue it to the top there. I kind of like the raw edges, kind of unwind those a little bit and make it look a little bit rugged. And then I wanted like a slight coastal touch, but nothing too much. I decided to use some of those little tiny starfish that I get on Amazon that are in my shop, some of the larger ones actually, of the two, and just glue a couple of those on. I liked the ivory color combination with this. You could also use seashells, that'd be really cute as well. But how cute is this DIY? I thought it was really easy. Just a little bit of rope gluing and all items from the Dollar Tree. And look how cute this little anchor looks hanging in my house. I think I might use this one in the bathroom. maybe my son's coastal bathroom. I think that'd be really cute. Okay, it's time for my favorite project of the day. We're going to use these new wood fish from the Dollar Tree. They are chunky wood ones. They have these in white or the natural wood. I'm going to use 3 and we're going to do a school of fish. I'm going to start by drilling large holes in kind of the bottom or the side of each one of those. And then I want to use some of these wooden dowels from the Dollar Tree to put in there. So make sure you have a big enough drill bit that your dowel is going to fit in there. It's always good to test. You're going to go as deep as you can. It's kind of an MDF wood. It kind of comes out like a powder, just so you can make this stable, because we're going to make like little fish like on dowels, like they're swimming. And on that long sign from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to use a Day of the Dead one just because I had it. Could be any of them. But first we need to decorate our fish. They're super cute because they're like wood and they have like a rope around the bottom. But I thought we could make them even better. So I'm just kind of using painter's tape to tape off just the head part of these so that we can go in and paint our little fish. I wanted to do like total coastal vibe, so I wanted to do like 3 colors of beachy blue, but kind of all different. So the first one I mixed Caribbean blue together with ivory to give me that very soft, like light blue. I do have to follow that up with a smaller brush to kind of get in all of the cracks, because it is kind of like, they're like slatted fish. They're a lot bigger than this year. I wonder if they will have the cute blue and white ones that they had last year as well. I hope they bring those back. Those are really cute as well. Now this one, I think this color was like lake. It's more of just a light blue that we're going to do here on the second fish. And just filling that all in, just getting as close to that rope as I can. I just want to leave that on there. I like that detail. And gonna just mix kind of a medium blue with a white, just because I was trying to get just another shade of blue, but a little bit different. See how they're all kind of complementary? They're all kind of close, but they're definitely all different. I thought that would provide a nice contrast. But I definitely wanted to leave the head part like that natural wood and the tail, because I think that looks nice and coastal too. Just giving those a quick dry. And then I was thinking about covering them in fishing net on the side, but my son said a fish scales, and he is so creative and he is always right. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just using my fine detail hot glue gun. I think this is like a Surebonder from Walmart, and it takes a little mini glue stick, so it gives me that finer layer. And we're just going to do fish scales on this. I tried to do like 1 in the first section, 2 in the second section, and then you just go about halfway along the next scale, kind of offsetting those. I do try to clean up any strings of hot glue that I may come across, because I find that when you paint it or distress it later, that is totally going to show up. So you're going to want to try to do this as cleanly as you can. And my scales are definitely not perfect and not uniform, but that really kind of adds to like the homemade vibe of this sign and actually gives it even more character. So don't worry if your scales are kind of all over the place. It's going to provide so much texture. I'm so glad that I listened to my son, because he was right. The fish all needed scales. Now I'm going in with my heat gun, and you would think that you wouldn't want to do that because you're trying to set the hot glue up, right? But I'm doing that to get rid of all of the strings of glue. They kind of disappear when you do that. And really the larger scales really don't get affected by the heat gun if you work quickly. I kind of took my painter's tape off at that point, but I wasn't done with it, but I just kind of wanted to see if it held up pretty, and it did hold up pretty well for a clean line. And now we're going to go in here and give little fish scales to our other fish using that same technique. Once you kind of get going at this, you'll kind of feel like a pro, but don't go too fast because you'll get all kinds of crazy scales. But again, it's going to add character, right? And I just keep working to the bottom of this fish until I get close enough to that little rope border, which I think is cute. Totally want to leave that on there. Again, going over it with my heat gun at the end to burn off all of the strings. I'm glad I figured that out because that's always my problem when I try to add scales to projects like this, but that totally worked. Fun little trick. So, you know, you could do a different thing on each fish, but since I did each fish in a different color, I think it's fine that they all have like kind of matching fish scales. But you know, you could be creative, you could do whatever. You could do like different spots or stripes or patterns on them as well to add a little variation. But I just want like 3 of these little chunky fish that look like they're swimming. And that's exactly what I got from this project. So again, just gluing off all the strings. And that's when I realized I probably shouldn't have taken the painter's tape off that first one. So I'm just going to go in there and replace it because I do want to paint all of the gills that we just made. And by paint, I'm just going to like slightly distress. So I'm going to use a little bit of ivory, acrylic, and a little makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree, and just lightly dragging that over that wonderful texture, and look how cool that makes it look. It's okay if a little paint gets on the color underneath, it's gonna just look distressed, but I'm trying to mainly just kind of concentrate on all of the fish scales just to bring out that beautiful texture and give it a fun distress. So trying to make sure they're all set up, and once they are, I can go ahead and distress all of these. And I do turn it around just so I can kind of get closer to that rope that was already on there. And we're going to do the same thing with the third one. And don't they have like a cool texture? I'm totally loving the vibe. The little hot glue scales look great. Okay, time to remove the painter's tape. I do like that I left like raw wood for like the fish head. It kind of gives you a different section to the fish, and it matches the fish tail. I did like the little rope that they used around it, so I thought maybe we could try to replicate that on the front for the border. I'm going to use some of the thicker jute twine that comes in that large roll from Walmart. It was the closest thing I could get to what they used on the tail. Pretty close thickness. And I thought I would attach it the same way they did, which was a staple on each side, just to kind of make it look more uniform. Cutting off the excess. Now I did find I did have to go in there with a hammer on some of those staples to get that nice and tight, but you could always hot glue that to the back. And it would look good too. Then we're just going to do the same thing here with the other fish. I think it just helps break up the different colors and patterns. And I think it kind of goes better with the way that the rope is around the tail. So we're going to do the same thing on all 3 of our little fish, and then we can start putting our little school of fish together. Have your all store got the shore living items yet? You'll have to let me know in the comments below. No, a lot of you guys were saying absolutely not until after Easter, but now it's after Easter, right? So they need to get with the ball game and get this stuff out, right? Now I did want to slightly stain the wood dowels that we're going to use for the fish. And so I just put a little antique wax by Waverly on a wet wipe to give me a very diluted stain, and that worked great. Just rubbing that along the sides of the dowels to give them kind of a medium stain to kind of coordinate more with our fish. Now, this is the sign that we're gonna use. This one was Day of the Dead. It can be anything. They have those long signs at the Dollar Tree a lot. And instead of painting mine, I thought, you know, we have that extra burlap from the mermaid, so we might as well put it to use and we can cover the base. It's going to give me a fun coastal feel, and then I don't have to worry about painting over all of that design that's on there. I do make the Day of the Dead part the bottom, and then I just pull that Dollar Tree burlap tight and just start stapling it on the bottom. This was an easy way to take care of the base, and it actually worked out well. Now, I have not drilled the holes in it for my dowels yet, and I figured I wouldn't be able to find them if I did that in advance, so I'm going to have to do that with the burlap on there, but it actually worked out pretty well. It was pretty easy to do. This piece was almost exactly the right size to cover our base, and I'm just going to trim it up a little bit just to make it look a little bit nicer. But I can leave the edges blue. That will totally go with my coastal vibe. Just trimming the burlap down to size. Now I want like my first fish to be like kind of like in the middle, but I thought it would be better to kind of do the dowels on the fish first. So I put some hot glue in there, secure my dowel, and then let that sit to dry. That's an important step because you're going to want that to be in there as much as you can, and the glue to be really secure. So make sure you do drill those holes fairly deep, and don't forget to use glue as well. I used hot glue. I don't know, something else might be stronger, but after letting these sit, they were pretty stable. So there's our 3 fish, all with dowels. And then we can start working on the base. I thought we would use like the fish with like a little bit of green in it to go in the middle because the other 2 colors were kind of more similar. To kind of space those out. So I'm going to use my same big drill bit that we used on the fish and kind of try to find the middle of my base. And I really didn't think I was going to need this long of a base. I was planning on cutting this down, but the fish are so large that I actually did need this big of a base. I drilled all the way through my base with that, and you can see it just drilled through the burlap as well. Just kind of making sure this is going to work, and then we're going to fill up the hole that I just drilled out with hot glue and secure my little fish in there. Now, this is an important step to make sure it dries tightly before you let go of it, because you don't want your fish like swimming like in kind of a random pattern, trying to keep mine as square as possible. And then I'm going to cut my other 2 down because I think they're going to need to be a little bit lower to look like they're kind of swimming in a school. So they'll fit like underneath that one, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to use my little miter scissors. I got these on Amazon as well. They work great for cutting these little dowels from the Dollar Tree. It cuts right through there, but you could always use a saw for that part as well. I'm just trying to trim those down where I think that the fish will fit. I thought about kind of having them scattered out different depths, but I kind of keep them fairly the same. This one I'm going to do really short. I want that to be the lowest one, and that because it needs to fit like underneath that tail part there, and I don't have that much room. I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole in my base for this one. Trying to put a ruler under it this time. When I drilled all the way through, I think I did get a little hole in my silicone mat, but your girl really needs a new silicone mat. So I get those on Amazon as well. They're listed in my shop. They are so great for crafting on, but this one has been well used. So we're going to put some glue down in the hole we drilled out and glue that on there until it stays secure. Just trying to show you how it looks, kind of fitting underneath the tail of the middle fish. But again, give it plenty of time to dry because you're going to want this to be as sturdy of a project as you can. I realize this one is probably not going to quite fit, but I'm going to go ahead and drill the hole in the base, and then I'm going to have to cut that one down a little bit as well. And I did cut that down. I'm going to hot glue that one in, where it'll fit right underneath the middle fish as well, where they're all kind of swimming in a row, but also kind of like in a little pattern of a school of fish. Making sure everything looks square, everything is dry, and this is how it turned out. Isn't it adorable? I absolutely love this DIY. It is definitely my favorite one from today. I hope you love it too. I love the different colors of the fish and the beautiful fish scales and even the burlap base. I think it just looks great together. What do you guys think? Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about memberships. I've just introduced those on my channel. For $4.99 a month, you can support my channel. You're going to get early access to my videos and other perks and shout outs. I already have a few members, Coastal Couple and Karen O'Haron. I want to thank you guys so much for supporting Crafty Beach, and you guys help keep these videos coming out. And I also wanted to thank someone, is what they said who they were, for buying me a coffee as well. Okay, time for the final reveal. Don't forget to like, comment your favorite DIY below, and don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to hit 15,000, and guess what? We hit 14,000, so yay! Thanks for watching.
For better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. 7 years now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. For our home to show on the horizon, soon we'll be there. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore when we can't read the sky. We just sail with the wind that we've got.
If you'd like to see more Crafty Beach, YouTube thinks you might enjoy this video right here.